We're going to be chatting through what a specialist prepared VGEC claim looks like against a DIY claim, and that could be one that's done by your finance team in-house. Essentially, the starting point is completely different. So with a DIY claim, in-house claim, typically starts with a spreadsheet and their best guess in terms of an analysis of the costs as to whether they're core or not. Whereas as specialists, we would start with the legal agreements. For example, are the right entities named? Are the contracts watertight? Does the structure truly support the claim? And could it be structured in a different way to maximise the claim further? Because really the foundations of the claim matter as much as the numbers. It didn't matter so much. Well, it did matter to a degree under VGTR, but it's much more critical now under VGEC because if the paperwork doesn't stack up, HMRC will find out essentially, and the numbers don't matter in any way then if the right foundations aren't in place. So in terms of the cost identification and categorisation, so if you do an in-house claim, yep, you'll capture the obvious costs. You might miss some of the less obvious ones that we see just by dealing with many studios over years. We know what qualifies and what doesn't, what sits in a grey area, what might need more documentation, and absolutely what needs further analysis. So we can maximise your claim by ensuring relevant costs are included there. Connected parties, man-month rates, intercompany recharges, these are really tricky. They need specialist and specific treatment that most finance teams just haven't been trained in, which is completely understandable because it's not an area that you cover in your ACA exams. And getting it wrong doesn't necessarily just affect one claim. It could affect your current claim, previous claims that you're doing for other projects, if you're running a multi-game studio. So it's quite far-reaching. So HMRC, it's not just looking at the numbers as well. It's looking at what supports the numbers to make sure everything is arm's length and properly in place. And what a specialist prepared claim has is it's got a clear audit trail. It's got the cost reports. It's got the BFI cross-references, the transfer pricing documentation is in place, connected party disclosures are clear, everything's supportable and defensible. Whereas sometimes we see with in-house claims, there's gaps there, and that's not through negligence, but it's just you don't know what you don't know, and unless you're working with this day in, day out, you don't know. But sadly, these gaps are exactly what HMRC is looking for, not to catch people out, but just to make sure that they have a note. So we'll prepare every claim as if HMRC are going to look at it, because they might. Their scrutiny is increasing, the number of inquiries are increasing, but we'll be looking through to ensure there's consistent methodology applied across projects and across years. You've got defensible positions, and nothing that you're submitting gives rise to unnecessary questions from HMRC. So inconsistency is such a red flag for HMRC, and that's inconsistency with BFI certificates, with your AIF, with projects either across the same year or other years as well. So what we're finding, specialist prepared claims do tend to go through a little bit more quickly because HMRC are comfortable with the way that they've been prepared, and HMRC's target for paying out these claims is still 40 working days, and that's where the claims were all prepared and it's consistent, then HMRC are likely to hit that. On the flip side, if you have a rejected or a queried claim, that can take months to resolve, and obviously there's further costs associated with that. So the difference between a well-prepared claim and a not so well-prepared claim is pretty significant. So not just in terms of money, it's also in terms of the time and stress as well. And I'm not saying this to be alarmist, it's just most studios preparing their own claims are doing their best, and more often than not, they're cash strapped. Of course they are, but you just need to be mindful that VGEC has raised the bar. It's not quite as simple as it was under VGTR, and I just don't want you to fall into a trap of thinking that it is as simple and that your claim is going to sail through, because what's getting queried is often in the detail. So we can help support you if you have any questions or concerns about where you stand in terms of the foundations and the legal documentation, etc., or you like a cost-effective health check to check that everything's in order. We'd be happy to help. But just be aware that the landscape has changed around VGEC. It's absolutely still worth claiming. There's no question mark about that, but it does require more care and expertise than VGTR claims.